and thanks for joining. If you're new here, I'm Wendy and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, just about anywhere we can find things to sell online and flip for a profit. If that's content you're interested in, you're in the right place. Today's video is going to be what sold for the week of April 23rd through 29th. Let's get started. The first thing we sold was a really good purchase. We found this at an estate sale. We paid $6.68 for it. I think this included tax, which is why it was kind of a weird amount. We found this buried in the garage at this estate sale, and it was actually an estate sale that we got kicked out of because we had kind of gotten distracted from what we were doing. We were out in the garage for a really long time, and they came out and they were like, we're closing, y'all need to leave. We were like, oh, okay, sorry. We didn't realize that they were closing, and we had way stayed past the closing time, so we felt bad. They were not very happy with us, but we got a lot of really good deals at this estate sale, and this was one, so we were happy to overstay our welcome. So we paid $6.68 for this. It was called an Alpha Stem Electrotherapy Pain or Anxiety or Insomnia Control System. It was not new, but it had the original box with it. It was in excellent used condition. They had these little electrodes that would clip onto your earlobes, and it would send some kind of, not like a shock, I don't know how to describe it, but like some kind of electric current through the wires attached to it to your earlobes from the main unit. And that would purport to control your stress or your anxiety or your insomnia. Anyway, this item sold on best offer for $195. So we were super excited about that. If we ever see an item like this ever again, we will definitely pick it up, whether it works or whether it doesn't work. Because these, when I researched it to comp this, all of these were selling very, very high. And it was a very unassuming looking item. So I don't think people realize what they are, and they don't price them very, very high, at least at this estate sale. That was the case. Next up was a pair of my daughter's old slippers. They were like slipper socks with the non-slip surface on the bottom. They're called Snoozies. I don't think she ever wore them, maybe not even one time, so they were in really good condition. We did have them forever in our store, but when the buyer got them, she was so excited about the quality. She gave us like amazing feedback. She was going on about about how they were in much better condition than she expected them to be. So we were really excited about that. They sold for $6.50, and despite being in our store for, maybe 2 or 3 years, we were, happy that they got sent out the door and happy that we got such good feedback on them. Next up was another really, really good sale. This was a Contour Roam action camera. It was like it's a kind of camera that you would put on your helmet, like a helmet cam type thing, similar to a GoPro, but this was more like a camcorder style. I had never heard of a Contour camera, but we kind of got to this garage sale where we got this kind of late in the morning. I think we got there maybe at like 11 a.m. And this was still sitting there, like very out in the open. And so the guy was willing to take kind of a low price for it. He took $10 for it. It had the waterproof case with it and everything. It just didn't have any cables with it. But we sold this on auction, and it sold for $99. It seemed to sell to like a camera shop based on the name of the buyer who purchased it from us. So we were really happy with that. That was a really great flip for us. And I was surprised we found that late in the day. Usually that kind of thing is gone by the time we get there that late in the day. Next up was a vintage plastic Kool-Aid cup. It had like the smiling Kool-Aid man on it. We got this at an estate sale. We paid 50 cents for it, and it sold on offer to buyer for $13.58. We did have this in our store for a little while, but it did finally sell and we got positive feedback on it. Next up was a vintage denim Disney snap up embroidered dress with Winnie the Pooh on it. This dress was covered in poo. We got this at a thrift store. We paid $5.86 and it sold for $40 even on best offer. I thought this would sell faster, but we had it for a few months. It did finally sell. I mean, we didn't have it forever. I guess in my mind, I thought it would sell quicker than it did. Next up was a pair of Toms. They were black sequin peep toe wedge heels. We got these in the Goodwill bins we paid $1.50 and they sold on offer to buyer for $22.38. The style of these was called sequence. If you ever have seen the RuPaul episode where they have the sequence dress, that made me chuckle and think of that episode. So these were the sequence heels that go with that sequence dress. Next up was a Happy Meal toy that we got in one of our personal Happy Meals. This was the Camillo Madrigal toy. It sold for $7.99. That was our asking price, and we just got this one in one of our Happy Meals, so no cost to us there. Next up was actually our old lighting kit that we used to have. It was the really big ones, and then we upgraded to another set that was like smaller and had a smaller footprint. This one sold for only $39.98 because it was not in perfect condition. Some of the filters, I forget what they're called, the covers on the front the covers on the front of the lights, some of the Velcro on the front had kind of torn off, and I was using safety pins to hold them in place. So they were not in perfect shape, but we did make money on it still. This sold on offer to buyer. And let's see. Next up was a pair of men's shorts, like board shorts. We got these at the Goodwill bins. The buyer paid $15 it was a best offer, and our cost was 92 cents. Next up was a Lane Bryant gold sparkle sweater. We got this at a thrift store. Let's see, we paid $2.16 for this sweater, and the buyer paid $20.78 on offer to buyer. Next up was one of the free magazines. The magazine sales are starting to slow down a little bit. We had gotten a bunch of magazines from a lady on Nextdoor, and we were selling them pretty regularly, but those sales have slowed down a little bit. We still have quite a few of them, and we still steadily sell them, but not quite as many as we used to. But this was a Ceramic Arts yearbook and annual buyer's guide. This sold for $11.99 and our cost was $0. Next up was another magazine, but this was something that we had gotten through another business that we owned. It was just something that the business had that it no longer needed. We were kind of cleaning out a lot of old stock and old items that business no longer needed, and we had acquired a lot of items like that, and this was one of those things. This sold for $9.58 on offer to buyer. It was a Parker County Today magazine that was signed by a local celebrity named Red Stiegel. Next up was a new in package sealed Reader's Digest VHS called Mysteries of Deep Space. We got this at our local thrift store. We can still find sealed VHS at our thrift store for dirt cheap on the half price days. So we will pick those up when we see them. This sold for $9.99 on our full asking price, and we had only paid 14 cents. Next up was an item that came from the Out of This World, or I don't remember exactly what I called it, but it was the Curb Alert where we got the items for free that were all kind of space related. And I'll link that above and in the description box below. But this was a a lot of 22 various space-related books that we got from that curb alert. And I did this on an auction, and unfortunately it sold for its opening bid price, which I wish I had done the opening bid price a little bit more, because we barely made any money on this particular lot of books. We have made money on other items from that curb alert, but this particular lot of books was kind of a squeaker on making money. Luckily, it shipped to a buyer in Texas, and we're also located in Texas, so that was like the saving grace on us making money on it. But I should have done the opening bid at like $29.99 or $32.99. I was actually really surprised that it didn't get more bids. But this was 22 various space programs, aeronautics, and astronomy books. It sold for the opening bid price of $24.99, and we had zero cost on that. They were all free on the side of the road. Next up was another item that came from the other business that we own. It was an 11 by 17 Parker County rodeo poster. This sold for $14.99. It actually sold to the other exact same buyer that purchased that Red Steagle magazine. This sold for our asking price. Next up was a pair of vintage Ralph Lauren men's jeans that we found in the Goodwill bins. These sold for $20.99, which was our asking price, and our out of cost purchase price on these was $1.68. I said that we got these in the Goodwill outlet, but because of that price, we might have gotten these at a thrift store. I'm actually not sure. Next up was a 2018 Chick-fil-A kids meal toy that we got at a thrift store in a big bag of toys. This sold for $6.38 on offer to buyer, and we paid 60 cents for that. Next up was a Star Wars Mandalorian hoodie that we got on retail arbitrage. We paid $8.92 for that, and it sold for $39.99 on its full asking price. We don't do a lot of retail arbitrage, but occasionally we do, and usually, we make quite a bit of money. It's just not something that we find ourselves drawn to as much as we do doing, Goodwill and thrift stores and things like that. Next up was a pair of White House Black Market women's shorts. They were like an ivory shimmer, ivory on ivory kind of stripe. These we got at a thrift store. We paid $1.88, and they sold on offer to buyer for $16.78. Next up was something that we got in that curb alert, and it was a 2006 Burton snowboard catalog. And this is one of those things that I'm like, I don't know if this will ever sell, but we tend to list everything unless I look it up and it just has zero value. I tend to list everything and just give it a shot for a little while. And if it's just not selling at all, or there's just been zero interest on it, I give everything a chance, because it's those things that you think, I don't know if this is ever going to sell. Those are the things that tend to sell for us. And, we make money on, and especially things that aren't already listed or just a few things are listed. Those things are hard to come by sometimes, and some people, I think, are looking for them. And this was no exception. This sold pretty quickly for $11.99. So surprisingly, a 2006 Burton snowboard catalog sold, and we had zero cost involved with it. It sold for $11.99. Who knew? Next up was a pair of men's Vans blue suede skate shoes. These we got at a garage sale. We paid $2, and they sold on best offer for $34.38. Next up was a brand new in package, like jumbo size Mexican bingo game. It's called Loteria. I played it in my Spanish class in high school. So I had good, when I saw that, I was like, oh, memories. That was for 10 players. We paid $3 for that at a garage sale, and it only sold for $13.49, but I was still glad to pick that up because it reminded me of my school days. Next up was a pair of pants that belonged to me. They were, the brand was buymeacoff, and it was just a pair of elastic waist gauze palazzo pants. Let's see, these sold for $13.28. Next was a D&Y Elastifit teal cadet style cap, women's cap. We got this at the Goodwill bins. We paid 92 cents and it sold for $15.18. Next up was a pair of men's cool shorts, like hybrid camping shorts. This is a great brand to pick up. It sells quickly, sells fast, and it sells for good money. We got these in an estate sale. We got these at the Sugar Train estate sale. We paid $4 for these and they sold for $36.99. Next up was a brand new with tags, Animal Adventure brand pink unicorn. This went overseas somewhere, I'm not sure, I can't remember where. But we got this at the Goodwill bins. We picked it up because it was new with tags, not because of the brand or anything. It sold for $13.49, and we had paid 67 cents for it. Next up was a vintage 1980s starter youth size green satin Boston Celtics jacket. And this we got in an estate sale. It smelled like smoke, like really bad, but we did wash it a whole bunch of times and got the smoke smell out. We paid $8 for it, and it sold for $72 even on best offer. Next up was a vintage Whitman 1 a year nickel collection, like portfolio, and it did have a few nickels in it. It had $2.20 worth of nickels in it because that's what I have our cost as. And this belonged to my husband. It was his own like personal nickel collection. There weren't any nickels in it that had any significant like collectible value in it. We were really just selling it for the value of the portfolio. And then it sold for $24.99. Next up was a 2016 Mattel Ever After High apple white doll. Let's see, I lost my place. That we got at a thrift store. We paid $1 and it sold on offer to buyer for $17.18. Next up was I could not figure out what people were interested in about this because this was in a bag of toys that I picked up for something else completely. It was in a bag of toys that we got from the thrift store. It was the brand was Onkyo, or I don't know how you say it, Ankyo. It was just a 5.5 inch green plastic crocodile in a standing position holding an ice cream cone. It didn't seem vintage to me. It didn't seem to go with any set based on my research. I didn't know really what it was. And so I listed it, I think I listed it for $12.99, and it had like a few watchers. And then I had several offers on it that were low. I didn't accept them. And then ultimately it sold on offer to buyer for $10.38. But I was just surprised how much interest this crocodile had on it, because to me it just seemed kind of like a dollar spot type toy. I could not figure out what the interest was on this plastic crocodile because it was like a hard plastic crocodile. It just seemed like an inexpensive toy. But maybe I was missing something. Maybe I undersold it. Who knows? Either way, I was happy that we sold this crocodile for $10.38. We only paid 14 cents for it. So who knew? This is why I always list every single item out of the bags and out of the pallets and out of everything that we pick up because I never know what's going to sell and why people are interested in items. You know, we made money on this, and based on my instinct, based on the research that I had done and my gut feeling, I would have just donated this crocodile back. I would not have thought this crocodile would have sold in a million years, but we sold it, and we made probably $5 on it. So I'm much happier to have that $5 in my pocket, because that is more than we paid for the whole bag of toys. So yay for that. Next up is a skirt by Banana Republic. It was a gray and white abstract floral pencil skirt. We got this at a thrift store. We paid $4.59 for it. It only sold for $18, best offer, and unfortunately it did not fit the buyer, and we accepted the return, and she returned it in the exact same condition that we sent it out in, and we've since relisted it. Next up was a 6-piece king size comforter quilt set. It had the throw pillows and everything. It was our old bedding set. That sold for $75 even on best offer. We had wanted a little bit more for that. I think we really wanted more like $100 for it, but we were so ready for that to go out the door. It had been in our store for a really long time, taking up space, and I was just ready to get that out the door, and so we accepted kind of a low offer on it. But, we still made money on it, and I was just happy to see it go out the door. It was a really pretty set though, and it was in great condition. So hopefully they were happy with it. We didn't hear either way. Next up was a vintage 1970s 8-pack of cocktail party invitations. They said, "Come for wine." They were really neat looking. We found them in the Goodwill bins, along with like a whole bunch of other vintage 70s party invitations. We have some really cool ones in our store. I'm surprised a lot of them haven't sold. I might need to lower the price a little bit, but I think I have a bit of an emotional attachment to them because they're so cool looking. But these sold for $11.18, and our cost was 92 cents on those. Next up was a vintage purse by the Sack. It was green. It was like a little shoulder bag. It sold for $18.88. And we had purchased that at the same time as the invitations. We paid 92 cents for it. It did have, I remember when we picked it up, it had a little spot on it, but surprisingly, I got it home and I was able to get that spot out pretty easily. So that was good. And last up was a really pretty green and like neon orange trim sundress by Tahari. But this is not a brand I'm going to pick up anymore because Tahari just does not sell. It just sits and sits and sits in our store. Even though every time I see it in the thrift store or every time I see it somewhere, I think, oh, that is so pretty. And I'm really drawn to that brand. And I always think it looks beautiful. It just does not have the resale value that I always think it's going to, because I always think that the clothes are beautiful and the quality is there. People just don't buy it. But this did sell eventually for $27.99, and we had paid $4.92 at a thrift store. But sadly, Tahari just doesn't sell. They make beautiful clothes. He makes beautiful clothes though. And last but not least, I will go over the cards from my husband's personal collection that we sold. As I mentioned in our last What Sold video, we are starting to pull out some of our higher value cards, and we did sell one high value card this week. And I will show that to you on the screen now. But this week we sold 7 cards in total for a total value of $197.74. So like I mentioned in the last video, our sales have definitely been trending downward as the weeks have gone on. This particular week is the end of April for the sales for this week, and they've trended down, and they continued to trend down. And in real time right now, when I'm making this video, it is the very, very end of June, and our sales are just absolutely in the toilet. They're horrible. So we are hoping that they will start to pick up at the end of summer, but we'll see what happens. We need to be better about listing. We've been extremely busy, but I do not think that summer slowdown is completely to blame for this. We'll just continue to hope for the best. And I hope that your sales are doing better than ours are. I've heard mixed reviews from other sellers on YouTube. I don't know. We'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please give us a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, the one thing that would help us more than anything is if you would hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.